Hello YouTube! Today on the Naughty Librarian, I am going over my quarter 3 favorites and least favorites. Oh my goodness. Can you believe quarter 3 of 2021 is over? Like what? How did this happen? And of course, you know, I read a bunch of books and I really liked some of them and some of them I did not like, of course. So let's get into what my favorites were, what my least favorites were, and we'll just discuss. As always, we're gonna start with the good stuff. So these are my favorites, in no particular order. Definitely a favorite is My Darling Duke by Stacey Reid. Oh my goodness, 2021 has brought me Stacey Reid and I couldn't be happier. This is like a new romance. Well, she's not a new romance novel author, but she's new to me. And it's like, oh, it's like I finally found another author like I'm obsessed with. These books are so good. I have pre-ordered 2 more books by her already. I don't care. I'm pre-ordering them. Like I don't even need to read it. I just see Stacey Reid wrote a book and I'm gonna get it. This one has a lot of tropes I'm just super into. 1, it's got a feisty heroine. 2, it's got a scarred duke with a dark past. 3, tenacity. 4, steamy delights. It's got a lot of things going on here that I'm obsessed with. So there's this girl, Catherine, right? She's kind of a wallflower and impoverished gentry kind of thing. Needs to get a good match for her sister. So, you know, she can marry well and have money. It'll save the family, la la la. And the way to do this is to like improve her own social standing, but she doesn't know how to do that. She's a wallflower. She's a little desperate now. So she's like, remember the Duke of Thornton? Yeah, he's my fiance. He's totally my fiance. We were pen pals and he asked me to marry him and now like we're totally like affianced. So she just starts a rumor that she's like the fiance of this duke that no one's really seen in the town in like 10 years or something. So it gets away from her a bit and like it's in all of the newspapers and the lie just has to keep going because now it's gone too far. And of course Alexander, the Duke of Thornton, does eventually find out he has a fiance in the paper. So he's like, huh, this is interesting. I'm gonna go check out this lady. I like the cut of her gib. So he goes down to London and he's just like, hi, I'm Alexander, the Duke of Thornton. You're my fiance. And there's a lot of Beauty and the Beast vibes, which I know that's weird because you know I don't like a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I'm kind of sick of them. But this one works for one particular reason is that Catherine, you know, the beauty in this story is fully writing her own story. Like I don't feel like she's at the mercy of other characters. Everything she does in this book she chooses to do for reasons that are her own. So I think that's the biggest problem I have with like Beauty and the Beast retellings is someone's getting trapped into it. But like there's no trapping. She kind of traps herself, honestly. So it's like, well. Also there's disability representation in this because Alexander, he was basically in a fire and fell out a window. So he has like a spinal cord injury and he has like burns. But it's like it basically is an incomplete severing, so like his legs work sometimes, but he does have a lot of spinal cord issues. So it does take a lot of different things into account and like explores them in really interesting ways. And I'm just obsessed with this series. Like I said, I've already pre-ordered 2 more books, one in this series and one in another series that hasn't come out yet. So I'm obsessed with Stacey Reid. I love them. Another favorite of mine was Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade. Now, is Spoiler Alert amazing? Arguably no, but hot damn is it kind of really fun, you know what I mean? So you have April. She is a plus-size woman who's a fangirl obsessed with this one TV show. It's like a la Game of Thrones but based with Greek mythology. So she's obsessed with this show and she writes like fan fiction, she does cosplay and stuff. And one day, one of her cosplay photos goes a little viral on the internet for bad reasons. And Marcus, the lead actor from the show, happens to see it and he's like, hey, I think you're hot, let's go on a date. And she's like, "K," and then they go on a date. However, here's the kicker. Marcus, secretly really smart, but pretends he's dumb because, you know, he has his reasons for doing that. I won't get into because spoilers. But he actually has a lot of like hidden depths because he is actually a fan fiction writer for the show himself. So he like does a lot of like fix-it fic for the show he's in, which is like totally against his contract so people can't know. But he and April are like online besties. Oh my gosh, how is the world working like this? And I do really like their relationship. You know, it is a rom-com, so yes, they're gonna have the inevitable breakup thing, but like they get back together, obviously, because it's a rom-com. But I do really like that they have a vulnerability with each other, and they want to grow and change and develop as people together. And I like there's a really open communication here. And also, you know, this is a plus size character in the world. She has some issues, but she gets past them because she genuinely likes herself. And I'm like, yeah, you get it, April, you go. So I really, really like this one. I think it's really fun. Is it like fantastic? Arguably no, but it's really fun. It's a nice me time book. Yet another romance top pick is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. And this one, oh my word, it is an FF romance, but also like a dash of sci-fi. You have August and Jane. August, cynical, 20-something, moved to New York, and she has a crush on this woman on the subway. It's a woman named Jane, her subway crush. And it turns out Jane somehow got magically put onto the train in the 70s and has been there ever since and not aging. She, like, there's her body is somehow connected to the subway through electricity. Like, you know what, I'm not even gonna try to explain it because the book really doesn't try to explain it either, and I'm happy with her that, you know, like, this is silly, don't try to make it not silly. And I really do like August and Jane and their relationship with each other. And the whole thing is this like a big love letter to New York and queer culture. And I was fully here for the ride. I had such a fun time with this book. The cast of characters were all so fascinating. And the romance between these two, very sweet, very cool. Also, it's doing something weird with sci-fi and just not trying to make it make sense. And I'm like, yes. Thank you. If you try so hard to make it make sense, it usually just still doesn't, and it makes me angry. Like, just be silly. Why not? That's why I like Back to the Future. It's not trying to make any amount of sense. It just is what it is, you know? So, it's FF romance that's adorable. Hint of steam. Jane, and she's a bit of a panty dropper. Just gonna tell you going into this. It's a bit steamy. I love this. I just had so much fun reading it. It's a contender for top books of the year, I think. I absolutely adored A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. It is phenomenal. If you haven't read this, put down whatever you're reading and go read this, because honestly, like, I am blown away here. Victoria Lee wrote this other series that I didn't see get talked about a lot, but the first book is called The Fever King, which is amazing. It was so good. Like, I freaked out about how good it was. So, like, as soon as I saw Victoria Lee was putting out anything else, I pre-ordered it. And hot damn am I happy I did it. Like, I pre-ordered it without knowing nothing it this, and it just exceeded expectations. So this is a FF dark academia romance. You have this girl Felicity. She has some issues. She's kind of also obsessed with witchcraft, but she's trying to put that in the past. And then this girl Ellis shows up, and she's like, oh shit, Ellis is super cool, and Ellis has this weird magnetism to her, and she's like, hey, let's go play with dark magic. And she's like, ah shit, here we go again. So you get like witchcraft, magic, dark academia. There's a lot of things going on here where there's a bit of an unreliable narrator. You never, like, there's a lot of parts of the book you're like, is something magical happening, or is this person having a mental breakdown? Like, it's never really clear at times, which I appreciate. And also the relationship between Felicity and Ellis is just chef's kiss, complex and creepy and toxic and like just bananas. So, oh boy, it takes some turns you're not expecting, and it is dark. This is a dark, dark book, and I enjoyed it from the bottom of my black little heart. It's so much fun. Honestly, this is another one, contender for top books of the year. It's really good. Last favorite from quarter three was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, I hear like mixed reviews about this book a bit of the time, and mainly because it's not a traditional narrative. It's written in an interview format, so there's all these different characters kind of just talking as an interview, so it's not really a paragraph, you know, regular storytelling. I still feel like all of like the emotional depth and like messy, complicated relationships that I love in Taylor Jenkins Reid books are all in here too. I recommend also using the audiobook because then you get all the different character voices and it really helps like sell the story a bit more. But basically we're following Daisy Jones, the titular Daisy Jones, and this rise and fall of this rock band in the 70s called The Six. And it's got like mad Fleetwood Mac vibes and like just drama and like rock and roll angst and just complicated, messy relationships. And I just love the people in this book that they're allowed to be hot messes. Like, you know, they do things that are unforgivable at times, and they do things that are like really altruistic at times. But people are more than one thing. I think books by Taylor Jenkins Reid do a good job of showing that characters have dualities, as do people. So it's a lot, and it's really complicated, messed up relationships between these bandmates and their families. But I really enjoyed it. It gets you in the feels. There are some really like deep sorrowful moments, and there's like really excited happy moments. There's moments where you're just like, you're full of dread. So there's a lot of emotions going on here, but I enjoyed it intensely. I was here for the ride. All right, let's move on to the bad ones. Well, I'm not gonna say bad. Bad is subjective. These are just my least favorites from quarter three. I had such high hopes for The Roommate by Rosie Danan, like such high hopes, because I had heard nothing but good things about this book, and I was like, yes, let's get into it. It's super sex positive. It's going to be smuttily delightful, even though the cover is terrible and looks like the same art from the Babysitter's Club. Am I the only one who sees this? It freaks me out that this is the Babysitter Club. It looks like the same art. Anyway, moving on. We're gonna move past the cover. This is Clara and Josh. Clara, she's like a New England socialite, kind of very uptight girl. She ends up accidentally moving in with this guy, Josh. Josh, he is a young man. He is also happens to be a porn star. So, you know, opposites attract. I could not get into this. And frankly, I DNF'd so early. I like DNF'd after chapter 6. Like I barely read any of this, like probably like 50 pages, and I couldn't take it anymore. It was like, oh boy, this is just bad for me. And I'm disappointed too. I'm disappointed in myself as well that I didn't like it. Basically, everything's really incongruous. Like, these characters are pushing 30. They are in their late 20s to early 30s, that age group. Like, they are pushing 30. They are grown-ass adults. And the situations they find themselves in are very immature, and how they handle themselves in the world is very immature. I would have bought this if it was supposed to be new adult, and these characters were like 23, 22, 23. I would go as far as 25, probably. If they were in their early 20s and you're just, you know, young and gullible and easily tricked into stuff, like, it would make a lot more sense for the book. But these characters were almost 30, and I was like, no, you're children. You are children in grown-ass adult bodies. And just a lot of the language in here was just odd turns of phrases. Like, when I first reviewed it, I did mention the phrase toss your cookies was used in here. And as a millennial, I've never used the phrase toss your cookies. I actually haven't heard it in anything since 80s movies. So I'm like, why would this character say that? They are around my age. They're in my age group. They would not say that because we don't say that. And it just went down in a spiral from there. So, I mean, I have the unpopular opinion. So if you want to try it out, try it out. There are lots of smutty bits in here. So there's that. Another book I had such high hopes for and was so disappointed by was Captives of the Night by Loretta Chase. Here's the thing. I read Lord of Scoundrels by Loretta Chase and loved it. It was so good. And then I got this one because it's the prequel, and I was like, okay, this is like the story before that. Let's see the lead up. Let's see all that kind of stuff. I was really into it, and I started reading this, and I realized, oh no, this is not good. We're following Layla and Esmond, and I was obsessed with them in Lord of Scoundrels. And then I read this one, which came out before Lord of Scoundrels, so I don't know how they were so shitty in their book and then cool in someone else's book. But Layla is, she was married to this guy who's kind of just a fucking reprobate. And then the Comte Desmond, he's like sexy James Bond, but Persian in the Regency era. And somehow they get into each other's lives through reasons, basically murder. She is being accused of a murder she did not commit, and they're trying to figure out, hey, who murdered this guy? And so they're together. I mean, let's just be real. I think it's like very apparent early on that like it's her husband that winds up dead. So it's unfortunate. And then like they're together, but like so much of the book is just drama and angst and like just so much drama, like, oh, I'm gonna throw a glass at you from across the room, like just angst to the max. And they spend so much time like not being together that it was just tedious. So yeah, I was really disappointed. I think Lord of Scoundrels is just the one book by Loretta Chase I like, because I've tried other books and they weren't killing it for me, so there's that. I had to put Year One by Nora Roberts on this list because, oh man, does this book make me go down like a crazy rabbit hole spiral of awful. Like, in retrospect, it should not have been my first Nora Roberts book I ever read. Because it's very not indicative of her normal writing style or work. And oh boy, like, I read this for Blades and Bodice Rippers book club. I gave it a 2 stars because sometimes it had something that was cool, but most of the time I was just going, what the actual fuck is happening here? So this is like a virus-based apocalypse, and also there's magic, and it makes no sense. Like, I mean, reading that post-pandemic world, I mean, it hits a little something different. But it's a magical virus, but like they never really explain the world that this takes place in. Like, was magic just around in the real world? Like, people were just witches? Like, how come after this pandemic happened that like magic is all crazy now? Like, people were just elves before? Like, where did they get elf blood? They had to have fucked an elf at some point. Where did they find the elves? And like, I'm sorry, that makes no sense. It's completely out of context, but like every time I think about anything in this book trying to make sense, I go down a spiral and I just feel like my brain is made of gopher holes. Like, there's nothing makes sense in here at all. And like, they spend so much time following all these different characters and POVs, only to like leave all those characters like about 2/3 of the way through the book, and they have nothing to do with any of the rest of the story, how it's set up for the next books of the series. I'm like, why did we spend all this time with them? You know what, I'm just gonna stop. Obviously, the basic understanding here is that I don't understand anything. Nothing makes sense, and the more you try to rationalize it, the more your head hurts. So, yeah. I can't with this. Last up, I have Incendiary by Zoraida Cordova. And this one I read like 2/3 of. I read like a good portion of this book and then just really couldn't be bothered to finish. And it sucks, you know what I mean? Like, do I think the book is bad? No. Like, I think if I would have finished this, it probably would have got 3 stars. It's good. 3 stars is good. It's not like very exceptional or at all. It's fine. And I just was not in the mood for fine, because here's the deal. Chapter 1 of this book is crazy. It is like breakneck. What the fuck is happening? This is crazy good. Like, chapter 1, chef's kiss. It blew my mind. I was like, what happens next? And like, nothing hits the same as that first chapter. And it really was unfortunate that like it just went downhill, and it just became very typical YA tropes. Not that this is a bad thing. I mean, typical YA tropes are there because they work. And, like, I just wanted more, I guess. It's a world based off of, like, the Spanish Inquisition, basically. And people have magic and stuff. And the king is, like, evil and trying to kill people with magic. And la-da-da-da-da. Very common YA tropes here. And, yeah, I just couldn't care anymore. I don't know, the main character in this is just so fully in their own head all the time, to the point where it's just like, you know, like, this isn't about you, right? Everything's just so, woe is me the whole time, that I just want them to get over themselves. So it might just be a me problem here. But, yeah, I just really wanted more from it. Like, it's fine. I just couldn't be bothered to finish it. Okay, so that's like a good wrap up for quarter 3. I definitely had a lot of faves. I had a lot of least faves. But, you know, overall, I had a really good time. I think the good books far outweighed the bad books, so I'm winning here. Let me know in the comments down below, what's one of your favorite books you've read recently, and what's one of your least favorite books you've read recently? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like, and if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.